Today's story is of the tragic death of Brandon Lawson, a man with loving characteristics by many, a family man of 4 children, and a man who unfortunately passed away under mysterious circumstances. It is up to you as the viewer to decide what happened on the fateful day of the 8th of August 2013. Make sure to leave your comments below at the end of the video. Enjoy. "26-year-old Brandon Mason Lawson was last seen on the 8th of August 2013. He was a devoted husband of over 10 years with his girlfriend Ledessa Lofton, in which they had 3 children together. Brandon was seen as being a kind and loving father, but underneath that he was also facing substance abuse issues, which led to him relapsing shortly before disappearing. There are many theories surrounding the case, with people believing that his addiction to drugs had a part to play in his disappearance. On the 8th of August 2013, Brandon had briefly arrived at his San Angelo home to find his girlfriend displeased by his absence the night before. Brandon had not arrived home after work, and when his girlfriend confronted him about this, the pair began to argue, with Brandon's substance abuse issues being drawn into the conversation. Ledessa was infuriated with her boyfriend's recent relapse, which caused Brandon to become increasingly angry before he left his home and never returned. Brandon had actually planned to travel to his parents' home after the argument in the town of Crowley, which was around a 3.5-hour drive away. However, his girlfriend was worried about the safety of her boyfriend, so she had called him and asked him not to take the lengthy journey to his parents' home after midnight, for obvious safety reasons. She instead suggested that he should take a 5-mile journey to his brother's house and spend the night there to let the situation calm down. This is where the case takes a dark turn. Suddenly, Brandon began to make his way up north of Highway 277, which in turn would abandon his plans of travelling to his parents' home, which was along Route 67. The main theory about Brandon's state of mind during this period of the night is that he was looking to take a longer route to his parents' home. Perhaps this was to give himself more time to reflect upon the situation that had occurred that day. While it is not clear why Brandon chose this route so suddenly, it is quite obvious that he was not in the clearest state of mind, which may have impacted his thoughts on his own safety. It was at this time that Brandon's truck began to run out of gas. He then decided that it would be a good idea to head towards Stripes, which was a local convenience store and gas station. Shortly after this, Brandon's girlfriend Ledessa made a call to Brandon's brother, Luke. As she was now becoming increasingly concerned for the safety of Brandon, Luke decided that he would visit Ledessa's home to see her and her children, bringing along his own girlfriend Audrey. The pair arrived at Ledessa's home at around 12:10 am. Now, while Brandon's mindset was not in the best of places, I'm sure that even he at this stage must have been a little on edge about his own safety as well. Being in between his own home and the home of his parents in the early hours of the morning, if he was not afraid now, then I'm sure that he was quite fearful after you hear what happened next. It is at this point where Brandon had run out of gas entirely, running along Highway 277. Only 45 minutes after he had got into his vehicle and left his San Angelo home. Picking up his phone, he then made a call to his brother Kyle, explaining the situation, that he had run out of gas and needed him to bring gasoline with him to assist. Kyle would later say that it was difficult to hear Brandon clearly during the call, as the cell phone service was quite inconsistent in the area that he had become immobilized at. The very last words that Brandon told his brother Luke were the following: 3 paws are chasing me out of town. The paws being a word referring to Mexicans. Kyle's first reaction to this was that of his brother being high and possibly using the drug meth. As previously stated, Brandon had recently gone into relapse due to substance abuse, so this was not totally out of the question. Kyle asked Brandon if he was tripping, but Brandon firmly told him that it was not the case. Shortly after, Brandon made a phone call to his girlfriend Ledessa, asking her to leave a gas can on the porch of their home, which she did, before taking a shower and getting into bed. An important factor to note is that Ledessa then left her cell phone in her van, as it was running out of battery and she did not have a working charger in the house to use. This led to several missed calls being found on the cell phone from both Brandon and Kyle in the morning, with Ledessa figuring that Brandon would be back home safely in the morning. When both Kyle and Audrey arrived at the location that Brandon allegedly was at, he was nowhere to be found. Instead, they found his truck parked with a police car beside it. At the time, it didn't seem as though an accident had occurred, or any sign of a struggle. However, a motorist had actually seen the truck in the odd place that it was parked in and called the police. This is the part of the story which puzzles me the most. So far, it is easy to understand that Brandon was most likely influenced by drugs during his final night, which may have contributed to all the events that have happened so far. But there was a frantic phone call placed by Brandon that turns the story upside down. During this phone call, it is clear that Brandon is out of breath, and with the cell phone signal not being particularly great in the area, it was difficult for the police to understand everything Brandon was saying, but this is what was heard. The call starts with Brandon explaining the situation that he is in, saying, "Yes, I'm in the middle of a field. Push some guys over, right here going towards Abilene, on both sides. My truck ran out of gas. There's one guy here. The guy's chasing to the woods. Please, hurry." He also tells the officer, "We're not talking to him. I told you I ran into him. That's the first guy." The dispatcher asks Brandon if he needs the assistance of an ambulance. Brandon responds with, "No, I need the cops." After those words, the connection went dead and Brandon was never heard of or found ever again. I cannot play the call in this video to avoid copyright issues, but they are public if you would like to search them up. Many people online have tried to enhance the audio of the call in order to try and find additional clues or information about the situation and Brandon's behaviour, along with multiple theories being brought up about the fate of Brandon himself. Here are some of the theories. Murder. The first and most obvious theory to most is that of murder. There are many indicators that make it seem as though Brandon really was being followed by someone, which may have secured his fate. First of all, Brandon was in the middle of nowhere really in the early hours of the morning, along with his mind state not being in the best place and drugs potentially being in his system at the time. He would have been very vulnerable in this state, and it would have been very easy for someone to cause harm to Brandon, knowing this information. When reading in between the lines of his phone call to the police, his weird behaviour and the environment he was in at the time, murder is the most obvious theory to most. Another popular theory is that of Brandon running away. Although this theory seems quite crazy at first, it actually has some good evidence to back the claim. First of all, Brandon had been in trouble with the law previous to his disappearance. He was a felony warrant, which carried a sentence of between 2 to 20 years in prison. However, Brandon was actually out of bond, meaning he likely would have had to serve a short prison sentence. Knowing this information, it was quite possible that Brandon ran away from the issues to start a new life. But would he really leave behind his girlfriend and his children, never to speak to them again? It is pretty unbelievable to think that he would go through with it and is now living a new life. The last theory that I'll be covering is that of drugs. We all know that Brandon had recently relapsed before his disappearance, along with having a history of substance abuse. I think that drugs more than likely have to be involved in this case, whether they cause Brandon to have a freak accident and die, such as accidental suicide, or if his use of drugs led to him being kidnapped and murdered. Many online users that have tried to enhance Brandon's phone call audio on the night have stated that his speech seemed slurred and sluggish, supporting the theory further. What is really puzzling to me is that his body was never recovered. Nothing of him was found. He literally completely disappeared. So even if he was to be murdered, if drugs were involved somehow, literally in any situation. I don't understand how his body was never recovered. I would like you as the viewer to go to the comment section of this video and comment any theories, questions or answers you might have towards this case. What do you think happened to Brandon that day? Other than that, I would like you to leave a like on the video, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.